Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Shanta Grimes and this is Ninja Writers. And today I'm going to try something new. I'm calling them live edits because, I'm awesome with naming things like that. Anyway, what I did was I asked some Ninja Writers if they would like me to help them with editing. And if they were interested, they could send me 1 to 2 pages and I would edit live so that everyone can learn. And what I'm going to do is just read an excerpt from a awesome Ninja writer named Pat Davis. She's writing historical fiction set during World War II. And she asked me in particular to help her with the dialogue here because it's dialogue between 4 people. So she wanted help with the tags and just being smooth with dialogue between many people. And so what I'm going to do is read this out loud to you, and then I'm going to go back to the top and I'm just going to edit it. And I'm going to talk with you about why I'm making the decisions that I am. And if this is something that sounds interesting to you, I'm going to put a link in the description box to the Ninja Writers Club. This is something I'm happy to do for anyone in the club. You can join for $5 with a link that's in the description. If you're already in the club, you can send me an email and I will be happy to add you to the rotation. So we will see. And also, if this is something that you find helpful, it would mean so much to me if you would hit subscribe, hit like, and also maybe leave a comment and let me know so that I can create more content like this for you if you find it helpful. Okay, so here's Pat Davis's story. Jo nodded her agreement and smoothed her skirt over her lap just as Catherine and Rebecca strolled up. Rebecca carried a basket covered with a red checked cloth in the elbow of one arm and a small white purse clutched in her other hand. Catherine wore a pink hat with a wide brim and white ribbon tied around the dome. She pulled on a pair of white cotton gloves. Ready to go? She raised one eyebrow at her daughter. Josephine stood and Catherine hooked her arm through Jo's. How was your day at school, dear? Smiling, she patted Josephine's hand. Fine, Mama. I made an A on my report for history class and a B+ on my algebra test. Jo dipped her head, face reddening, smiled, and looked side-eyed at her mother. That's wonderful. Rebecca, did you hear that? My daughter is a genius. She winked at Rebecca and smiled brightly. Her words made Josephine's guilt over David's secret plans intensify, but the praise lifted her spirits. Mama was proud of her no matter what. She's a regular Einstein, Rebecca agreed. Her eyes crinkled at the corners when she smiled. David rolled his eyes. Well, that must mean I'm the best tutor ever. They all laughed and continued walking down Main Street toward home. Catherine took a deep breath. Jo's birthday is coming up soon, and you know that your family is welcome to attend the party we are planning, she said to Rebecca. That would be lovely, Kath. What day is it? Asked Rebecca. Well, we will likely have a nice garden party on a Saturday afternoon. We could come for a bit, I think, but we'll leave early for synagogue. I hope you won't mind, she said, turning to Josephine. Of course not. I'm glad you can make it for part of the party. I know it is the Sabbath, reassured Jo. Catherine patted her daughter's arm. What kind of cake would you like? Is there anything special you want on the menu? Can I have your world famous carrot cake? That's my favorite. And can we make ice cream to go with it? Jo bounced as she walked beside her mother. Certainly. Anything else? Well, said Jo, I haven't really thought much about the rest of it. I suppose I mainly care about the dessert. Her eyes twinkled mischievously. She grinned at David. I plan to have my cake and eat it too. We can sit down and decide the menu and decorations this weekend. That way I can make sure there's plenty of time to get everything bought and put together. Catherine, David tells me that you and your husband will be coming over this evening. I hope everything is all right, said Rebecca. Everything is fine. Theo is just being Theo. You know how he likes to be in control of things, even things he can't control. The corner of Catherine's mouth lifted on one side, and she glanced sidelong at Rebecca. As they reached their homes, they said goodbye and went inside. I guess we will see you at 7 then, called Rebecca. With a wave, they turned and entered their own home. Okay, so I'm just going to come back up to the top here make sure that I am in suggesting mode. I am. Okay. On with Pat's edit, and I'm going to go over with you real quick the changes I made and why I made them. A lot of what I did for Pat here was to tighten things up and get rid of extra words that she didn't need, and also add some tension. So I'm going to start at the top. So Pat has like that Joe nodded her agreements, and that's probably not necessary. I don't know. This is a only one page. This was a one-page excerpt, so I'm not sure what she's agreeing to. But probably just the fact that she doesn't disagree is enough to imply agreement. So I took that out. I removed this section about Rebecca carrying the basket because it didn't connect with anything. So I actually ended up moving that down below, which you'll see, to where we actually meet Rebecca, and then we get more about what she's carrying and why. So one thing to keep in mind when you are in revision is that you want to give your readers the information they need, and only the information they need at the time they need it. So at this time, in this part of this story, at the beginning of this excerpt, we don't need to know that Rebecca is carrying a basket with a red checked cloth and a small white purse, because we don't even know who Rebecca is. So it's not necessary right here, and it's better down below. We also, so with Rebecca's description and then Catherine's description of her outfit back to back, it starts to read like, I think of it in my mind like literary paper dolls. It's like stage directions, only descriptive, right? It's not about what they're doing, it's about what they're wearing, but it's like running narrative. It's not necessary. I don't think it's what Joe would be thinking at that time. She wouldn't be noticing exactly what these two women are wearing in this moment. So I cut that as well. And I gave Kat, instead of having it ahead of the dialogue, I used it. I gave Catherine an action that had to do with her clothing, at least her white cotton gloves, which I think is the most important part here. She's the kind of woman who's walking around town in white cotton gloves. That says something about Catherine. So it moves the character development for Catherine forward. And I added it as a beat, which means that we didn't need, she raised one eyebrow at her daughter is less imperative. It doesn't do as much for the story as the white cotton gloves, in my opinion. And this also adds to the tension, because Catherine is Joe's mother. And if your mother is the kind of woman who's adjusting her white cotton gloves on the street, that just says something, it's that her mother is fastidious, that she is maybe a little prim and proper. And for this story, I think that's important. The beat here that I cut, Joe dipped her head, face reddening, smiled, and looked side-eyed at her mother. I cut because I think the dialogue does a good enough job of showing her pride in her work just by saying what those actual grades are. And I moved the head dipping and the side eye and even the face reddening down below so that it's a response to her mother's reaction, which is to call her daughter a genius to her friend. So now that Joe dipped her head and looked side-eyed at her mother, her face reddening, instead of being about pride, it's maybe a slight embarrassment. So it lifts her spirits, but it also intensifies her guilt over David's secret plans. I think it highlights that secret plans, which is the most important part of this entire excerpt, is that David has some secret plans, right? And mom doesn't know what they are. Now in this beat, rather than just have the description of what Rebecca is carrying, again, I made it a active, right, an action. So instead of carrying the basket, she's adjusting it, and like up here, it's just a description. Rebecca carried a basket covered with a red checkered cloth in the elbow of one arm and had a small white purse clutched in her other hand. It's obviously has verbs, so it's it's active. It's not passive, but it's not tied to anything, so it's not an action that's going anywhere. Here we have she's a regular Einstein. Rebecca adjusted about a basket covered with a red checked cloth in the crook of one elbow. She clutched a small white purse in her other hand. Her eyes crinkled at the corners when she smiled. So now we get her adjusting herself, but then also smiling. And that moves Rebecca's character forward because it makes me start to build an idea of who Rebecca is. So she likes Joe, she smiles at her, but she also is maybe a little put off by Catherine's boasting. That's what I get from that without it all ever being said. I just have a personal thing with people rolling their eyes. It's like a pet peeve. I always imagine people plucking their eyeballs out and like tossing them like craps dice. So I took out rolled eyes mainly because it's just my own thing. And I would do that for myself and anyone else. Instead, I have him catching, actually, I'm going to make a change right now because he didn't, it reads the way I had it, like he caught Rebecca's eye, but he actually catches Joe's eye behind their mother's backs. I just like him looking at her rather than rolling his eyes. I think that is stronger. And it also, what we get here is a little bit of description that gives us an idea of how the people are walking. So now I can picture the two mothers walking beside each other ahead of the two younger people who are walking next to each other behind them, right? Because before I didn't really have an idea of where they were. And now I know that David can look at Joe without being seen by his mother or her mother. So that's good information that all comes from just that one small sentence. I like here, I added, Pat had what did she have? They walked, I don't know what she had here. Just that they were laughing and walking down Main Street. And then Catherine says, Joe's birthday is coming up soon. And I changed this so that it would be as the four of them walked down Main Street toward home, Catherine took a deep breath. So what this does is do a good job of implying that Catherine is like stealing herself for inviting Rebecca to this party. There's definitely a feeling through the whole thing that she doesn't really want to have to do it, but this is what good neighbors do. And so she's doing it anyway. I put a note here for Pat that she can fill in later if she chooses to. But when Rebecca asks, what day is it? Instead of giving the date, Catherine just says on a nice Saturday afternoon. And generally, if someone's asking when a party they're being invited to is, it's going to be where they will, like the answer would be the day of the party, like the actual date, not just some Saturday at some point. So I would put which Saturday. I would either have her say this and have Rebecca ask, well, which Saturday, or I would have Catherine just say it's going to be next Saturday or in 2 weeks on Saturday or whatever. The fact that it's on a Saturday seems important because the next line is that they'll be able to come, but they'll have to leave early for synagogue. So that means that Catherine probably knows, since we see in a minute that Joe does, that this is a holy day or a Sabbath for Rebecca and David. You're left wondering, did they do this on purpose? I'm not sure from this excerpt how close these two families are, or whether or not anyone knows that there's like the eye catching and the secret plans with David, you know, how close the two of them are. So I don't know if this is on purpose or not. I like the fact that it could be, and then I don't really know because it's intriguing. So I actually like it the way that it is now. I like that Rebecca actually turns and speaks to Josephine here, that she doesn't give this information to Catherine. She gives it directly to Josephine. I find that compelling as well. It's a good character development to know that Rebecca respects Joe enough to talk directly to her. And then Catherine pulls the attention back to herself, and I like that. Okay, so what the note I left here is right here is where Catherine could change the subject because it's gotten uncomfortable, show that with an awkward silence first, or maybe a glare from mom to daughter. So right in here is where like Catherine pats her daughter's arm. I think that there could be a better beat there that would show an awkwardness, maybe where Catherine is uncomfortable with the exchange between Rebecca and Joe, or being kind of almost called on the carpet for planning this party at a time when their neighbors couldn't come. Although I still am not 100% sure if that's what happens, but it kind of seems like it might be, at least a little bit. There was this part about the cake here felt a little bit where the emotion of it was a little off. Joe seems very young here. She's like giddy about a carrot cake, which is fine. You know, her mom obviously makes a very good world famous carrot cake, but it seems like we weren't getting anything of what was happening inside of her. And I feel like that's a missed opportunity. So what I added was another little beat here. She kept her eyes forward to avoid looking at David, rather than having her twinkle mischievously at him, because it's been clear this whole time that they are keeping something from the mother. So I didn't think that she would be this forward or obvious about how happy she is about having her cake and eat it too. So I love the line. I just don't think that she would be grinning at David while she says it. Let's see. And then I felt like there needed to be one more transition here, because this is another awkward exchange. And then Rebecca brings up, you have the awkward exchange about the cake and everything, and the party. And then there's this, Rebecca suddenly brings up going to, or that Catherine and her husband are coming over. I'm assuming that the reader will know from what's come before why they're coming over. I don't know why, but it's okay because I just assume that I would know. But I think that I put a little transition here where we have this where Catherine's like, oh, we're going to plan the menu and the decorations this weekend. Yay. And then there's a moment of tense silence, right? So Catherine says, or Rebecca says this, I actually think the moment of there needs to be a transition right in here between these two lines of dialogue that lets us know that there's this moment of tense silence. So right in here is where I feel like there needs to be a sentence or two of transition. I liked that I added this, the corner of Catherine's mouth lifted on one side and she glanced at Rebecca, because I feel like she feels like she is bringing bringing control of the conversation back around to her. And after feeling slightly put on the spot, maybe about the party. And I think that would make her smile. And then Rebecca's kind of terse response, which, you know, it leaves some feeling of like Rebecca would maybe like to ask more, but she doesn't. And that's more character development, right? That Rebecca just says, okay, well, I guess we'll see you at 7 then, instead of asking, you know, wanting more information. Or maybe she wants it, but she doesn't ask for it. And overall, I think that these revisions, what they do is make the beats that are between the dialogue. You always want everything that you write to do at least 2 things. One is to move the story forward, but also something else. So character development, setting development, story development. And I feel like these changes, especially to the beats, and the just moving some of the description around, makes it so that those words do double duty in a way that they weren't always before. And it also adds some tension to this little scene, which Pat has told me that she wanted to do. So I'm going to read this all the way through one more time for you. Jo smoothed her skirt over her lap just as Catherine and Rebecca strolled up. Ready to go? Catherine pulled on a pair of white cotton gloves, then hooked her arm through Jo's. How was your day at school, dear? Fine, Mama. I made an A on my history report and a B+ on my algebra test. That's wonderful. Rebecca, did you hear that? My daughter is a genius. Jo tipped her head and looked side-eyed at her mother, her face reddening. The praise lifted her spirits, but it also intensified her guilt over David's secret plans. Mama was proud of her no matter what. She's a regular Einstein. Rebecca adjusted a blank basket covered with a red checked cloth in the crook of one elbow. She clutched a small white purse in her other hand. Her eyes crinkled at the corners as she smiled. David caught Jo's eye behind their mother's backs. Well, that must mean I'm the best tutor ever. As the 4 of them walked down Main Street toward home, Catherine took a deep breath. Jo's birthday is coming up soon, and your family is welcome to attend the party we're planning. That would be lovely, Kath. What day is it? Asked Rebecca. We will likely have a nice garden party on a Saturday afternoon. We could come for a bit, I think, but we'll have to leave early for synagogue. Rebecca turned to Josephine. I hope you won't mind. Of course not. I'm glad you can make it for part of the party, even though it is the Sabbath. Catherine patted her daughter's arm. What kind of cake would you like? Can I have your world famous carrot cake? We can make ice cream to go with it. Certainly. Anything else? I suppose I mainly care about the dessert. She kept her eyes forward to avoid looking at David. I plan to have my cake and eat it too. We can sit down and decide the menu and decorations this weekend, so there's plenty of time to get everything bought and put together. Catherine, David tells me that you and your husband will be coming over this evening. Rebecca broke the moment of tense silence. I hope everything is all right. Everything is fine. Theo is just being Theo. The corner of Catherine's mouth lifted on one side and she glanced at Rebecca. You know how he likes to be in control of things, even things he can't control. I guess we'll see you at 7 then. Okay, so that's that. Just a couple of things that Pat will have to do on her own, but this tightened things up quite a lot, I think, and added the tension that she was looking for. She did ask whether or not it it was clear who was speaking, since there's many people in this scene, 4 people, and I didn't have any trouble at all keeping track of who was speaking. So I thought Pat did a great job with that. You all have a great afternoon. And if you would like me to do a live edit of a page of your novel, all you have to do is join the Ninja Writers Club. There's a link down in the description. If you are already a member of the Ninja Writers Club, or you decide to join, all you have to do is email 1 page of your novel to shanta@ninjawriters.org with YouTube edits in the subject line, and I will add you to the rotation. So thanks for being here, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Bye.